Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with legendary jazz musician and journalist Ben Sidran on the new 2022 CD Swing State. This is his first all-instrumental record as a piano trio. His favorite records when he was a kid were the trios of Horace Silver, Bobby Timmons, Bud Powell, and the great Sonny Clark. Circling back 60-some years later, he wanted to feel like those musicians in the way that they played. We cover the story of this album, live gigs, COVID, and the busy future, along with a little bit more. Enjoy.
Hi, Ben. How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
Oh, man, it's so good to hear from you. I'm wonderful. How's life?
Life is great, man. We just had a couple of nights of great gigs at Mesro, so that was great. And, I'm hanging here with Leo, and everything's cool.
Right on. That's the thing that's so good from my end of things. I ramped up so much when the pandemic started with interviews that it was like no one was doing anything. Like all these conversations for the last 2 or 3 months is like a cathartic wash. The fact that you cats are out, you guys are having great gigs, it's like finally things are getting back to, what it should be. You guys out there doing things in your element.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. The first gig was kind of strange. It was the first one in 2 years. Then the second night was fantastic. So we're back on the horse.
I love it, man. And, I got to tell you, just as a side note, I've always loved the relationship you have with your son. You guys remind me of the father-son duo at the end of Field of Dreams. You guys are right there in heaven playing baseball together.
That's exactly right, man. We're very, very lucky.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. It emanates. Well, hey, man, I really, really dig Swing State. My native element is to get that in the car and watch the world whiz by, and it's just been a wonderful listen. So I just wanted to say that up front as well.
Oh, that's great, Joe. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And that's where I listen to my copy, man. I get in the car and I drive.
That's it. It just, everything opens up. But, from what I was reading in the liners and then comparing that to listening to it, it's almost like there's a part of you that got to like an elemental core of why you love jazz. Is that kind of an accurate description for this album?
That's exactly right, man. It has to do, they always say with jazz musicians, as you get older, you simplify and you become more connected to what brought you in the first place. There's no doubt that's what happened to me. I finally felt like I was ready to do this. And, it's in part because, the heroes of this music are and were so great that it's challenging to step up into that ring naked, and I've always, relied on my writing, but this time I just went to the heart of it.
The one thing that's been unmistakable over this last 2 years is the way that COVID has changed us, whether as musicians or humans. Is there a level of this new album that kind of became what it is because of revelations or realizations of living through COVID and what we've been through?
Absolutely. First of all, I had, just like everybody else, stopped traveling. And so I was home all the time, and I was able to just sit at the piano a lot and play. And eventually I started to play these songs that I remembered from literally 60 years ago. I really enjoyed playing them. It was like, getting into a nice warm bath or something. So that was definitely an impetus to record that. I was having so much fun playing these songs, and it's for me, it's not nostalgic because I'm living this life. This is like you say, the core of what got me into it.
You live most of your life as a performer without having to deal with something like a pandemic, and this is obviously a magnanimous human event that rocked everybody. But coming out of that, this is a quite unique time for, I think, a performer to look out into an audience after this long of an absence. What's it like to look out as a performer at a live audience? What's the feel like now?
People are just so happy to be out. You can tell. And they're very respectful. When they're in the room, they're listening. And they're paying attention to everything and they're enjoying it. I mean, it's like a primal experience now. People have kind of moved on from the ongoing party of the pre-pandemic time. And, everybody got kind of a wake-up call. And so you can feel that in the room.
And I guess that's the thing about this. What do you hope we continue to hold on to and realize about the power of live music as we, in these first couple months and even on, get back to it? What do you hope we hold on to about live music?
Simplicity, man. It's just go down to the club or go to the gig and just bathe in the water of the infinite flow, man. Get in there, because music is our primal mother tongue. And, if we can just get back to the feeling that we're part of something bigger, that's really what it is. It's been every man for himself and every woman too for a long time. Let the music bring you to the present moment. It'll really make what we went through efficacious, man, worthwhile.
One of the things that I noticed for years and years covering jazz in Kansas City is whenever I would ask a musician, what's the greatest part about being a part of this community, they would always say the community, the supporting part. So my question to you is, as the world of entertainment overall, but more specifically because what we're doing is jazz, as we resuscitate and get back to life, how do you think it's going to come back stronger? I mean, a lot of cats had to learn new skills, whether it was technology or promotion, Bandcamp Friday, there was different things, but how do you see this community emerging as a stronger organism?
Well, I think, first of all, everybody, aside from missing performing, missed the social part of it, hanging out with other musicians. I think, like last night, a bunch of musicians came down and other people came down. And we were all just so glad to see each other and to be in the room together. So I think that's something that's going to really hit people, how much we missed each other and missed the social aspect of it. The other thing that I think is going to happen is that the gigs, have never honestly been about money. The joke, how does a jazz musician make $1 million? He starts with $2 million. And
that's right.
So I think just appreciating what we have and what this music is and not worrying about what it isn't. Music's very special, and we were talking about this after the gig last night. Historically, the last 10 years, you almost have to be a monk. You had to be a monk to play this, to survive. And yes, social media, we all got smarter. Streaming. I mean, we played at Mesro, which is connected to Smalls, which is one of the few clubs in New York that really did well, or survived anyway, during the pandemic through streaming. And so we're smarter, definitely. But, there's something about being in a room with people makes the music sound better. And from a musician's point of view, there's nothing like it. Anyway, that's what it brought home to me. I used to maybe take that lightly. But after last night, I'm a convert, man. You gotta be out there with the folks.
The one thing that I've tried to kind of hone in on with a lot of younger musicians out there is, how has this affected a lot of these crops of graduates and younger cats? And there was one person in particular, her name is Grace Fox. She's in New York. She's 19. She's a big band leader. She has an album out. And it seems like resoundingly all these younger players say the crop of new jazz musician has never been stronger. That has to be promising for this genre, to feel like the younger generation hasn't been wavered by this and they're going in full on.
Well, that's absolutely true. We have more and better prepared players now than have ever been out there. The one thing that I think the pandemic might actually have been a benefit is that adversity has always been a big part of being a jazz musician. Whether it's individual adversity, like how do you get your style together and how do you learn how to survive on the road? But also, you're dealing with a lot of economic elements, and it really brings home where this music came from. So when musicians say to each other, yeah, baby, tell your story, it brings home this whole idea that jazz is storytelling. It's narrative playing. And so now we've got all these gifted young players, and I think aside from all the other challenges, this is going to separate the wheat from the chaff. I mean, this is a very interesting time because so many players are so well prepared, and at the same time, the economic reality, honestly, has never been more stark. I mean, to make a middle class living these days, you need to make what, $50,000 or something? Yeah. Well, if you do the economics of being a jazz musician, $50,000 a year, that's netting, let's just say, $1,000 a week after you pay all your expenses and everything. That ain't easy. That is not easy. So, these are promising times and challenging times.
I've been talking to a lot of Canadian jazz musicians, and it really dawned on me over this pandemic. They get their health care taken care of, and the government really gives grants to a lot of musicians. What a wonderful idea that you don't have to worry about health care, and they're there to support the arts. I've always thought that's very interesting, and how that would really benefit the artistic community in America if that was more and more a reality.
Oh my God, yes. Absolutely. It's a huge thing. I'm on Medicare now. I'm over 65, and what a difference. I mean, before I turned 65, I was paying $15,000-$20,000 a year for calamity insurance, for $20,000 deductible insurance. That's a huge chunk out of a musician's economic life. You're absolutely right. And the same thing in Europe. You go to all these European countries, you go to Denmark and Holland and everything. Not only are the musicians getting their health insurance, but they get unemployment. In France, if you clocked enough hours playing gigs, when the gigs dry up, you get unemployment.
Well, and that's the thing I think that's key to this, is that when you have your government that genuinely holds the arts up, and that's exactly what I feel from them. And I can feel there's a ease in their voice, too, because they don't have to worry about it. I mean, I remember years ago when I was really getting into jazz in Kansas City, they had a Coda Jazz concert, and Claude Fiddler Williams and a lot of older cats were there, and it was a fund to just get these guys a funeral. And I'm thinking, man alive, that's like the end of the road for them, but all of the years they had to worry about health insurance just to survive, to make art. But you get an environment like these Canadians that get, the government saying, we value what you do. What you do is an important contribution to humanity. And that's beautiful.
And that's beautiful. And that's something where America is really in the Stone Age. America is dog eat dog. And it's a fact that, particularly the Republicans for years have wanted to destroy the National Endowment for the Arts. Why should we pay for arts? And what strikes me is the assumption there is, well, the arts are just like the frosting on the cake, that it's not essential. But the fact is, without the arts, and you can, by the arts, spread it across all, from theater to literature to music, painting, dance. Without that, life is just an endless series of bad television shows and problems with your car, and right?
Yep.
Arts are the appetite. It's not the frosting on the cake; it's the appetite for life. And America never really got that. They were too busy in the democracy of dog eat dog. That's the American democracy. Yeah, we're all equal, and good luck.
If you look at this pandemic when it started, everybody was getting into Netflix. They were getting online and looking at art. They were listening to music while they worked out. It's the backbone of why we didn't go into madness and darkness. And that's the thing about it. It is. It's the appetite. It's the essential to making sure that we stay together. It's as important as spirituality. It is a glue that keeps us bound to some level of rationality.
It is spirituality, man. I like to point out that 40,000 years ago, when people were living in caves, and they were painting on the walls, anthropologists and archaeologists actually found musical instruments on the floors of the caves. They found flutes. They found percussion instruments. This is back before formal language grammar there was music. And I'm sure the reason music was important is because it caused the community to coalesce. It brought them together. You know, when everybody is dancing or singing or playing, they come together, and that is the basis of religion. That is spirituality.
Absolutely. You know, and the one thing I was thinking about that really hit home during this pandemic is this almost seemed like something for all of the artists that are out there. You jazz musicians are always thrown into the unknown, and you have to make something beautiful out of it. When this began and the chaos that started and no one knew what was going to go on, of all of the artists out there, this is your life. Every time you go and you get ready to get on stage, you have no idea. No one will ever hear it that way again. You all are the uniqueness artists on this planet. And I realized that over this pandemic.
Yeah, I've always thought that jazz musicians are like canaries in the coal mine. You know, when they stop singing, you got to stop digging and run, man. The idea of being a jazz musician and living on the rim of the well, you know, that delicate balance between trying to do something you don't know, like Miles said, don't play me what you know, play me what you don't know. That's what we're out here doing all the time. So we are experienced in you know, making something happen. How do you make something new happen that's connected to the tradition? That is what we do, and the pandemic just put everybody in that space where you have to improvise. That's exactly what everybody had to do.
So let's get to the good business here, Ben, of the most ideal place people can buy or stream Swing State and see you live perform it.
To buy Swing State, if you still have a CD player, then you go to Amazon and buy the CD. If you no longer have a CD player, you can go to Bandcamp and purchase it there. You can go to my website, bensidran.com, and on the landing page there are links. Because a lot of people don't want to go to Amazon or whatever, that gives you alternative ways to purchase the music. And of course, you can always stream the music at the various streaming sites itself. In terms of where do you see me? Next week you see me in Paris. The following week, Madrid. The week after that in London at Ronnie Scott's Club. And then this summer I'm playing in Chicago at the Green Mill and Minneapolis at a club called Crooners. In the fall we'll be in California.
Ben, hey, thank you for your time. Thank you for the music. You're one of my favorite people on the planet. I appreciate your time, man.
Thanks so much, Joe. You stay well.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players and minds in New York City, Kansas City, and spots all over the globe, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to Ben for his class, cool, and music. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. And for all things Joe Domino, go to joedomino.com, and there you can contribute through Patreon or PayPal to the Neon Jazz cause. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.